finance meeting to order. Is there any public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to the Financial Analysis Committee. Dana?
Thank you. For this presentation, we changed a few things throughout. We used to do some crystal ball reports that would show projections or a range. And we've kind of taken those out of the projections for the last few years. So we've added some different types of slides to kind of show that things change, and depending on those changes, how they move around a little bit. So there are some new things. Yeah. During the presentation, we're going to talk about the county highlights and things that have happened in the past few years and happened in 16 and one or two things in 17. Look at the current year status and year-end projections, the 4-year forecasting, and the data is presented from the focal point of the general fund unless it's otherwise stated. And the fund balance in the presentation is the general fund unassigned fund balance plus assigned for future budgetary requirements. In 2016, we refinanced the 2008 bond, and that's going to save the county $2.1 million spread over predominantly the next 3 years. We do have another refinancing. A bond is eligible to be called in 2018, and we may, depending on market conditions, do that in 17, but most likely we'll wait to 18 because of the negative interest earnings. No county real estate tax increases in 15 and 16, and we're not expecting any in 17, and that's the county portion. 2017 medical premium rates decreased 2.4% or $350,000 countywide for 17. Public safety began implementation of the silent dispatch with the go live late in 16, and that automates the operations by reducing the number of calls and radio exchanges requiring human interaction. The sheriff's office is implementing the video, audio, surveillance, and arrest alarm security system, and we are expecting that to be completed by the end of 16. Merit-based compensation was implemented in 16, and that incentivizes superior performance. The uniform 911 surcharge revenue increased. The nursing home IGT payment was received, and the $5 registration fee is being used for bridge replacements. Now we'll get into the 2016 projections. We're projecting the year-end fund balance to be about $27.8 million. That is about a slight difference from our projections in April, but it is increasing fund balance in 16 by 5 days. The major changes since our April 2016 projections, we are expecting the revenues to increase by about 0.5% more than our original projections, but expenses are also increasing by about 1% from our original projections, which is decreasing the fund balance by $325,000, but it is still a $27.8 million fund balance and an increase from 2016. This is showing the difference between the actual 2015 expenses and the projected 2016 expenses. Overall expenses are increasing nearly $5 million. Salaries $1.5 million or 5.6%. Some of that is related to the Gallagher impact, half year for the county, full year for the Sheriff's Association, merit-based compensation, and COLA. The other thing that we are seeing is there was a lot of turnover in 14 and 15. So in 16, our turnover is down, so we have a lot more full year impact of salaries. Benefits are increasing about $1 million or 9.5%. Medical $600,000, retirement $245,000. Operating is increasing $3.2 million. The majority of that is the nursing home IGT payment. Subsidies are decreasing $1.4 million. The majority of that is 911, decreasing 1.7, which is offset by an increase in children and youth of $160,000. And transfers and debt are increasing $620,000 because we use 2011 proceeds to pay the debt service in May of 16. Overall, the revenue is increasing 2.7 million or 3.7%. Real estate tax is 1.3% or 650,000, and other revenue is 2 million. The majority of the increase is related to the IGT, offset by several decreasing revenues, the Common Pleas grant, the Library Keystone grant, and the proceeds from the long-term debt for cryptometry.
So that's our Common Pleas grant decreases that resulted from the budget process at the state level that reduces their subsidy to our courts, the cost.
Yes. Yes. Now moving on to 2017. The first column of page, this is where I need my glasses. 3s and 8s look the same. The first column of page 13 is the preliminary budget as it stands now and what it will look like when it's placed on view if nothing changes between now and when it's placed on view. The second column is our projections for actuals, and the biggest difference between the two columns is our contingencies. One thing that I need to note is the fund balance, the $27.1 million, is actually a $600,000 decrease in fund balance from 2016. Getting into the details, going between our 2016 projections to our 2017 projections, salaries are increasing 2.51%, and that's merit-based compensation. Benefits, $114,000 or 1%. The majority of the reason for that is the medical is decreasing by 2.4%, but retirement is increasing 7.3%. Operating expenses increasing 3.1%, subsidies $745 or 11.8%. The majority of the reason for that is we are putting a little bit more in for the human services, and we'll probably increase some of their subsidies because they haven't had increases in a very long time. Capital is increasing $1.2 million for voice over IP and Cronus County-wide, and transfers in debt are decreasing $840,000 in relation to the 2016 finance.
Dana, if you could you go back, please?
Yeah.
The increase in the retirement plan, is that from the ARC? Is it due to the performance of our investments, or is it due to increased drawing down benefits by people who are a combination of the two, or none of the above?
This is 100% us funding the work. So the actuary gives us a estimate. This is still the estimate. And normally the estimate's a little high, but it is very relative to market conditions. So December 31st, if the market's great, it may come down a little bit. If it's not so great, it might go up a little bit.
So on the way, it would be fine closer to the budget time, right?
May is when we find out exactly.
When?
May.
Okay.
So we just put an estimate.
So this is a
down.
conservative estimate.
This is based on what the actuaries give us.
So it's generally tends to be conservative. They're not making overly optimistic assumptions.
No. Normally we're relatively close unless we have an extremely good market condition or extremely bad.
Yes.
I have a question too on the page 9, which is the 2016 recap, but essentially in 2016, then the medical increased by 602,000, which is a pretty significant increase. But essentially what we're looking at for 2017 is a 2.4% reduction.
Yes. And some of the medical increase is, in 16 is related to turnover. So when there weren't people in positions, we weren't charging medical benefits. And then there's a couple of months where they're not eligible. And so that has our benefits down a little bit from 15 to 16. So some of it's rate increase and some of it is the reduction in turnover.
So 14 and 15, some of the savings that we achieved were because of basically vacancies.
Yes.
Okay, and the implication is that we have fewer vacancies.
The real estate tax revenue is increasing $777,000 or 1.5%, and other revenue is increasing $280,000 or 1.2%. This is the same graph from before, but we added 2016 in, or 17, to show that fund balance is starting to decline. It's decreasing $600,000, which is a 6.7% reduction in the number of days. The other thing that we want to take a little bit of time to talk about is projects that are in the hot horizon, and the projections themselves are a midpoint of an estimate. So one thing that we need to be aware of, in 2016, everything's great. Our fund balance increased. We have a low project year, a low amount of our contingencies were needed. It was a good year. However, starting going forward, we have a lot of major projects and things that are unknown that we would take into account. Some of them are budgeted in our projections and some are not. So as we add things in and take things out, it does adjust the projections. So in 2017, we know we have voice over IP, Chromis, and the radios are starting.
Like your lightning bolts here. Yeah.
You want me to give you a graphic here?
Charger snake.
I'm sorry.
I think he's a charger snake or something.
Charge.
You know, the farmland preservation, the library, the amount given to them is still outstanding. There's many, many more things that are still outstanding. These are examples. We're also doing 2 towers for the radios. Related to it, we would be doing it anyway, but we're calling it part of the tower project. 2018, we have a little bit less pressure. It's still library, farmland preservation, and the radios. Other unknowns, but it's still outstanding. However, when we get to 2019, the pressures increase dramatically. The radio project is gearing up. We'll probably need to be doing the bond refinancing. The voting machines may end up having to be done in that year. That's a $4 million project. The 7th common pleas judge, if that's approved, the renovations related to that would be done in this year. And then the other normal stressors that we have. So 19 is going to be a big stressor year. In 20, while we still are feeling the ramifications of 19, some of those stressors are relieved a little bit because if elections occur. In 19, that's a one-time project, it goes away. It's kind of one of those lower impact years. Could still be potentially high impact if there's some unknowns out there and based on different decisions. In 2021,
In case you need to explain.
in 2021, the radio project ramps up in a big way. And so we will be needing to probably do a large bond issue, which will have a large debt service payment that's ongoing for 15 or 20 years. Plus the other types of projects, the 7 common pleas judge, the ongoing operating expenses for that would be added on. The same as in 22.
We also are retiring, one of the clients that was taken out before I got here, for farmland preservation, and I'm not sure what else.
And in our presentation, that is already out. We have actual debt service taken out, so when that's going away, we have it out. So we'll be adding stuff back in. When we did our presentation in April, if you remember, we said we're taking all this out because we don't know when the new projects are going to start hitting.
Mhm.
Now we're starting to get more information on the projects, and they are going to impact 19 and 20, 18 actually. So basically, this is the caution that, yes, our projections are relatively good, but small things impact it over time, and we have a lot of large things moving in the near future.
Now, why do we have the library in here as a storm cloud when, in fact, they have their own revenue stream? Or
Well, it's one of the unknown things, if we do a grant to them or something like that, it would be impactful. So it's just two of the
We're
things.
talking about that, I haven't talked about that.
They're planning for all contingencies. One of the things that was discussed is some kind of performance-based grant on an ongoing basis. That hasn't been acted on, but it's appropriate for it to be considered. This is like the Christmas Carol. These are the things that are common, but they haven't been written yet. But they are in fact possibilities unless other decisions are made.
Okay. Well, and the number of lightning bolts depends on
Yes.
essentially whether these are real possibilities or somebody's thoughts about possibilities.
Well, the lightning bolts are in or out based on the entire year's pressures.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you go to, and we didn't do it scientifically at all.
Okay.
So
If
there
you-
could be fewer lightning bolts, but there could also be more.
There could be more.
Unanticipated.
And we just put things out there that we know decisions
Well, then we
are
should
moving
be-
or haven't been
well,
made yet.
If there's more, then we ought to anticipate, but if we're throwing some of these things in, then we ought to know what those are too, right?
That's the definition of unanticipated. The idea is that there could be emergencies out there, something like the seventh judge thing, or I'm sorry, the cut to the judge's right that we get. The legislature to do a number on us last minute again on something.
Everything we knew, even as a possibility, is in here. There's nothing that we have held out. But again, this is our best guess based on the information we have now. Any of these things should be weighted in terms of its probability.
And that's what we tried to do when we put it in the presentation, and our projections are not. You know, if we know it's a high probability, it's in, if it's not, we just talk about it. Okay, one thing that we have written on the slide that doesn't impact the general fund potentially is the nursing home infrastructure. And at some point, we will have to talk about that as a general, because the building is still aging, the tower building and those types of things. So even though it's not in our projections, we can't forget that it's out there.
Now that presumes that we still own the nursing home. We're still operating as a county facility. That is something that clearly corresponds to current, because in 4 years, things might change. They might not, it could stay exactly the same.
Or it could be somewhere in between. You could sell the building, but lease it back, or something of that nature, but they would have responsibility for the capital requirements.
So this slide is basically showing the merit-based compensation that was approved by the board and plugging in the numbers for 2016 that will be paid in 2017 to set the anchor. The CPI for June was 1%, and the fund balance gain share portion is 1.51%, so that would set the anchor at 2.51%. Then the piece of the formula based on the budget as it stands now that we would know for 2017 to be paid in 2018 is the 100 days of fund balance, which is about $22 million.
And our policy says 90 days, right? That's what the minimum is.
No, we updated the policy. It's 100, isn't it? 70 is our cash flow need. 100 is our need for the contingencies and to be able to have flexibility from year to year. So this formula is 100 days,
It used
which
to
is
be
our
90.
target.
Used to be 90,
We did change it, it was 60 days, and that's not enough to meet our cash
60,
flow.
it's okay.
And that's not enough to meet our cash flow, so we did the analysis and updated that 2 years ago, last
It
year.
was at least, it happened after I got here.
It was right, you know, it was right around the time that the state budget was passed, we did it all at the same time. And that
It
year,
was
so it
just
was last
before,
year.
and it was, yeah, and it was approved by the commission.
Yes.
I heard, just getting my memory refreshed.
I can look it up, I have the date.
300 years.
So it went from 60 to what is what we did with the policy change.
Well, the policy was written so that it was, that 60 was the bare minimum, but we targeted a higher amount. But that higher amount was based on multiple funds within the that are dependent on the general fund for cash flow.
Mhm.
We simplify it so that it's all in one day, so you're not pulling funds out based on what their specific cash flow needs. We've always had that higher target.
Yeah, I remember that it was somewhat flexible.
Yes.
It is that cushion that enabled us to prevail without cutting services, and way off during this prolonged state budget influence.
Yes. So this slide is basically showing the millage rate changes since 2007. That out of the last 10 years, there were 4 years that had a millage change. And if you notice in 2000, from 2010 to 2011, there was a decrease in millage. That was from the reassessment. So the tax base went up. We reset the millage rate to be a 0% increase.
Just required by law.
It's required by law. You can go up to a 5%. The commissioner's chosen to 0. The last time the library adjusted is outside of this is 2004, but they would normally not be part of that. This slide is a repeat from our last presentation, and it's showing the growth in the tax assessed value and the building permits, and there's a direct correlation between the two, so we keep our eye on the building permits that are coming up, and the type of permits back. This graph is also a repeat, and it is showing the general fund revenue sources. The general fund, the biggest piece is the real estate tax at 72%. But when you compare that to the total county, 37% of our revenues are actually coming from federal and state grants, and 22% from the real estate. Now I'll turn it over to Kim.
Some of the major adjustments since our last projections, the 911 uniform funding in April, the assumption was that 911 would remain fully funded through the projection period. Looking at the August numbers, reviewing the 17 budget and their 5-year capital, 911 is going to need some subsidy for their capital projects that are not related to the radio projects. And then beginning in 18, the radio project's going to be funded by bond proceeds. Some of the debt service changes are listed for 16 through 20. Current projections do not include some of the estimates for the timing and financing of the projects that you saw on the slide 18 with the thunderstorms, but they're going to have an impact on future projections. The projections always assume aggressive management of the cost drivers, that we still have to be very aggressive to meet these projections. The slide showing you the projections for 2016 through 2020. 16, we're at 27.7 million. When we get out to 2020, we're projected at 18.2. Some of the major impacts that are in there are the election machines, broke out some of the IMTO major projects in 18 through 20. In 911, these are the capital projects that are not going to be funded by bond proceeds. And there's some projection in there for any kind of library support.
Jim, if you look at the transfers in debt, you see that it goes from 5.5 to 4.7 down to 3.7 in 2020. That's the decrease that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Some of the assumptions in the projections and salaries, 2.5%, an average yearly increase in there to cover the union contracts, merit-based compensation, and overtime. Benefits, there's a 7.3% average yearly increase in projections. Operating, 1.3%. Subsidy has a 2%, except for 19, where we have a new bond, possible new bond principal interest payment, which would bump it to 7.7 in that year. Capital we have projected out the same this year. The 911 radio assumptions, this is all, of course, pending Board of Commissioner approval. $6 million bond in mid to late 18 with the first payment in 19. An estimated bond principal and interest payment of $420 are the projections. And then a possible new bond in late 2020 with the first payment in 2021.
What's the current annual debt for the bond that's we're retiring? Is it 2018 or 2019?
We have several that are retiring in 2018 and 19. Are you looking specifically?
Well, you're saying a
at
$6 million
that?
bond is essentially a principal and interest payment of $420,000. What I'm trying to understand is, if the other ones are going away, essentially it's not, it would not be, an additional debt service payment, it would be replacing the debt service payment.
Well,
Trying to do it,
we have already dropped the other ones out, so it is increasing our projections. But you're right, our debt service won't change if we do it, but we have change in there.
And I rolled the bond payment for the 911 radio project through 911 subsidy lines. When you're looking at my projections, I've got that rolled in through their subsidy, because that's where it's going to hit on the general fund side.
But it is less than, the decrease, or the increase related to 911 is less than the decrease that we're expecting from the bonds being paid out. However, we've already taken them out of the projections, so it will affect the outward
So
projections.
this is net, this is not gross.
The 420 we have it, but there's more coming. The 2021 one will be the big one. Which is why we did thunderstorm. It's just outside our projection.
On the slideshow, I have the unassigned fund balance again. This time we added the projections out through 2020, and as you can see, 17's got a slight decrease, and each year then it's decreasing. The yellow bars is showing you the years where we're under the 100 days of fund balance. So 19 and 20, with the current projections, we would be under 100 days. This slide's just a graphical representation of the projections with the red bars, the revenue, blue bars are the expenses. The black line on the chart is our projections from last fall when we did the FAC. The yellow line is the projections where they were in April or in June when we did those. We did the FAC then. The green line is our current projection. And as things change, our projections change.
So again, on this one, the closer we are to a flat slope, the better. The reason the black line, which is an early projection, is the slope is downward so much is because of the things, that's if nothing was done based on the situation at the time, but through improved revenues and improved cost management. We've gotten that line to flatten out in the ensuing subsequent 2 to 3 years, but then it continues its downward trend. So here though, our earlier projection in the yellow was better looking than we now are refining it, and the reason for that is
We just know a little bit more now, as projects come in, we refine these projections when the decisions are made.
And the other thing is, our projections are a range, and we try to pick the midpoint. So when we give you an exact number, it's not gonna be that exact number, it's gonna be a million or two up or down.
Can I ask a question about previous projections? So, did you include in your previous projections, like cost for our capital bridge program? Like you're suggesting here about voting machines and you're suggesting here about library. Was capital improvement program for a bridge project included in your earlier projections in terms of costs?
What time frame are you looking at? Are you looking
I'm
at?
going back before the, our implementation of the $5 vehicle registration fee.
There was a time period where the board was given $500,000, I think it was, for the bridge replacement. I think we only did it 1 year.
Okay.
And that would have been in our projections at that point in time when it was implemented. But then when it was taken out, we would have taken that out.
So I guess my only point is that would have been one of those, big expense items that for, large measure now is being addressed through an alternative revenue source.
Correct.
That is, do the new projections here also, take into account the additional funds that we're getting from the 911 fee?
Yes. They would be through the form of the subsidy. So when I talked about the subsidy decreasing by the $1.7 million in 16, that is directly related to that new uniform funding. So it comes into the 911 fund, but this general fund doesn't have to subsidize them as much.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, I mean, but the other thing that, we discussed about this too is the need to kind of like segregate that additional revenue that's coming in now because of some of these larger projects that we anticipate coming down the road.
We do have some fund balance assigned in 911, and that's part of the reason we took all the subsidy out of our projections. But what we're finding is they're going to use it a little faster than we had originally planned. Unless the projects get delayed. And then,
And in 2017, you will have a final price
yes,
for the radios project. Then you will use that as a way to develop an integrated and multifaceted finance approach,
correct.
including general fund, borrowing, local share, etc.,
Yes.
that we can use to fund that, which will then, in fact, probably modify the projections.
It will modify them.
Yeah, because you'll have a more defined, project.
Yes. And that's an important point. The further out you get, the wider our ranges in our projections, right? So from now to the end of the year, our range is here. But when you get to 2020, it could be a $10 million range depending on what changes. I mean, the range gets big. And we kind of show that a little bit later.
So we're gonna keep down the performance thing.
Yes.
As long as you're on that goal.
And we are doing some things to hopefully maximize what our share of the money will be. We don't charge all of our costs to 911 right now because there was no reason to do it because it was just subsidy. So we are going to implement paying indirect costs. So it may increase subsidy a little bit, but it's really just offsetting general fund expense. But what it gives us is a higher cost load of 911 that will be eligible to receive through the uniform funding, if any portion of that is based on cost. It's eligible, it's allowable, we're just not doing it, so we're gonna start doing it to try to make sure all of our costs are appropriately accounted for.
Yeah, all I want us to do is kind of keep that in mind, segregate that from, everything else, because
We do.
that's savings to the general fund. And those savings to the general fund are as a result of that fee revenue, that additional fee revenue. So, and those savings should be utilized for, whatever we're looking at in terms of additional expenses, for example, for the radios.
Oh, you're asking to actually assign that fund balance for that
What I'm
1.7.
What I'm saying is before it gets mixed into everything else, those dollars, the additional funds we're receiving, are, for a specific purpose, and that is, 911, public safety,
And that's what we're doing it
Service.
for.
And I know that we don't, right now, the formula does not cover radios. Okay, I understand that. But these are still savings that I believe should be, put toward the cost of whatever our total cost is. There is some discussion about, you know, at the funding formula, and I'm sorry, the advisory board, Philadelphia brought it up. They think that, you know, radio should be a reimbursable cost. There's only so many dollars available, but that, you know, could be maybe, you know, maybe the advisory board will recommend radios to complete the system, you know, from call answering to dispatch. Maybe at some point somebody will say, yeah, let's include that as a reimbursable expense. All I'm saying is those dollars should be used for that purpose. And they should be set aside, you know, what I'm saying, we don't have these immediate expenses right now, and we're receiving more revenue than we anticipated. Those general fund savings, right? Those general fund savings, you know, ought to be understood and set aside. Somehow you draw a line there saying, these savings are the result of the additional revenue that we're getting from 911.
At this,
Well, we can track those. I think at a very general level, the whole notion of the clouds and widening in the coming year is based on exactly what you're saying. And we can track exactly where the revenue sources are from. But the point is that, yes, we're sitting on surplus now, but as you say, that surplus has to be designated for these future expenses. And specifically, I think 911 is one of the bigger ones.
but I think what you're saying though is you want the savings that the general fund would have otherwise been subsidizing to be set aside, and we're not doing that. We're all using that to offset other general fund expenses.
All I'm saying is those savings to the general fund are the result of increased revenues, 911 members. Yes, we can use it for anything those savings we want to. What I'm saying is that, you know, in order to, I'm trying to look at a way to segregate extra funds available for the radio system, which we know is coming down the road.
I think it's kind of akin to the libraries, the thing we just went through the library. You don't necessarily want to set up separate accounts, and either revenue accounts or expense accounts. What we do want to do is track where this money comes from and make sure that at the end of the day, it is allocated towards these expenses and not put into something like a new project on, pick anything, a mobile library, thing like that. So no, we're not going to set up all these sort of straitjacket accounts, but you can still keep track of all this, the specific revenue sources of where this stuff comes from. And that goes into the pot from which then you fund projects like
911 is a separate fund, it is completely segregated. So all of the monies that are coming in.
easier to track.
I understand.
But
There
what
are-
he's asking is he wants to put the savings that the general fund is saving aside, in addition to what's already in that fund. And that's.
They are,
that's
because they're
really-
savings directly attributable to the additional funds we're getting. That's why I'm suggesting that. And we know we've got real expenses. In other words, what I'm saying is, so we have all this, you know, additional funding that's been provided, that's available, that saved the county taxpayers money.
Yes, and-
Those,
and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
We're utilizing those savings to fund other general fund expenditures.
that's it. See, that's the point. I don't want to fritter it away on something that maybe is pie in the sky and we don't need. So the point is, those savings were costs, actual costs, the operation of our 911 public safety emergency answer point in the county. All right? And I shouldn't use the word fritter away. But my point is, you know, I think that we need to keep track of it, whether it's actually in the budget or it's not in the budget, because we need to come back and say, what happened to that money that we saved that was, you know, coming from the general fund?
Would you like us to update the projections to show you what that would do to our projections? Because it's going to put us in the red very quickly.
I don't think we need or should do that. I think Jim's point is well taken. which is if we're generating these savings vis-a-vis 911, we don't want to use this as an excuse for them to put in customized gold-plated air purifiers and additional staff, in spite of the fact that we're doing silent dispatch, buy a brand new mobile unit that we don't need, and start paying people overtime to be on call when it's called out once a year, okay? I think that's what he's saying. Now, we can track things within our accounting for the 911 to ensure that these funds don't go to things like that and do go towards what we know are going to be these costs related to the radio project coming up.
Yeah, I've worked really hard to get my merit bonus, and I don't know when I'm gonna get my merit bonus.
Same time every day. Just want to make sure it gets credit for it. So we'll take
30 decades from now, right?
No, could be.
Okay.
Somebody watching that's gonna be really confused.
Yeah. You're right there.
On the slide showing our fund balance projections, the first line is showing what they look like with no change. The blue under paper or teal on the screen is showing the difference between the revenue and expenses each year. Second line showing what it would take to break even each year. It's a 1% in 17, 2 in 18, 3 in 19, and 1 in 2020.
And just to underscore what you've already written here, that percentage can be either increase in revenue or decrease in expenditure.
Yes.
Or combination.
Combination. This next slide is just showing some different scenarios with projections. First line is just projections where they are right now. Second row, added a 7% in 19. And you can see how it affects the projections. We move out of the yellow zone into the green where we're above 100 days. Most of the scenarios that I did was just to get us back into the above 100 days in the green zone. Third line is just a 3% in 18 and 3 in 19. Last one was 2% in 18, 19, 20. Just a couple different scenarios to show the kind of impact a 2%, 3% change has some fund balance.
Good to see we don't see as much red as I remember seeing when I first walked in the door.
Back when you were new commissioner.
Unfortunately, this slide has a little bit of red on it.
Yeah, I know, there's a little bit of red there.
And
Put the lightning bolts over there too.
this slide is just kind of showing, what a 1% change would do. First line is current assumptions. The second row showing just a small 1% change, which is
A negative change.
negative change of $500,000, what it would do to our projections. The third one bumps 1% to 2018 of a 1% ongoing change. 3%, which is just $1.5 million in 18, puts us in the red zone when it comes out to 2020. So it just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what a small change will do to the projections out in the future. In 17, we did just a 1% change, $500,000 each year, and the last one 2%, which is about a little over $1 million each year. We end up in the red zone. So it's just kind of to give you an idea of what kind of impact it has. Back to impact of ongoing changes. These changes can be changes in revenues, millage, department fee, revenues, collections, changes in expenses, farmland, debt service for major projects, subsidy, grants to other organizations, salary and benefits, any kind of an ongoing change. This slide is just a little bit of a graphical of what happens whenever we make some changes, positive change, you get the 1 bag of money in 16, you'll end up with 5 bags in 2020. If it's we had a different program. You empty a bag out in 2016, it's like emptying 5 bags out in 2020. It has a compounding effect to it. So just another little graphic for you. The next slide is basically the same slide that we showed you before, but we added a blue line to it. The blue line is just showing what a $1 million impact would look like and what the slope of that line does with just a $1 million impact in 2017 and then going forward.
So it's a $1 million negative,
Onward.
assuming nothing is done to offset.
Yes, correct. And this slide is just a different picture of that $1 million change, that a $1 million negative change. Fund balance starts dropping off quickly, that by 2020, we're out in the red zone below 70 days of fund balance. And the last slide is just showing the comparative tax rate for all the third-class counties. Cumberland County is again the lowest of the third-class counties at 205 property tax per capita.
So you think the adopting commissioners are happy that they're at the top of this list?
Probably not.
See, they've been compounding, right? For a number of years.
Any questions?
Let me just ask one other PIA question I think I asked earlier. This, on page 45, you have the property tax rate on a per capita basis, and I've raised this before. Are there some other measures we could possibly use? And I think the one I suggested was percentage of median household income for the county. I know I've asked that before, I don't remember. Is that problematic for us to calculate something of that nature rather than per capita? And again, the reason I can say that is because we don't pay taxes on a per capita basis. So I'm not sure that this really gives us as accurate read as what we think it does.
The problem is the value in every county is different. Because if there was a statewide reassessment,
Yeah.
it would
Oh, I see the
work.
valuation property. Okay.
And so we've tried many different things to try to get there. The state board, equalization board tries, and it
Yeah.
really skews our market value back. And so there's no
I can see that.
easy way to get there.
Do we ever, I'm trying to think of percentage value, even just, we could do it for our own county and have it as a year-over-year comparison. I'm very curious to see what that would be like, but it wouldn't tell us really as much as this, on a comparative basis. Is there any other, I'm gonna give it some more thought, but is there any other basis you can come up with that you think would maybe give us a little more accurate reflection of the impact on
We've tried many different things.
Yeah.
This is the most stable.
It's certainly the one most broadly referred to. There was a new article that came out on best counties in Pennsylvania to live in. They used this, that's when we got the highest ranking
Yeah.
based on this and crime statistics and other stuff.
And when I say stable, it's because board decisions change your income level. But your median values can be changed too, based on the economy and different things. So
Sure, yeah.
you have multiple factors. This kind of just gives you
Well,
a more.
That's kind of the point, because what I'm trying to gauge is what the impact on the individual is, rather than on us. So there's other factors are relevant, in my opinion. So,
Just to try and carry your train of thought forward, this would be invalid only to the extent that our situation was appreciably different than anybody else's situation. Like, i.e., we had much larger households we had a much different ratio of renters to homeowners. I don't know that for this area, I mean, I think it's a good question, but I'm kind of thinking, this doesn't include urban concentrated centers like Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. It really, you know, you have a much higher proportion of rental properties, you probably have a higher family size or something like that.
Well, if you have counties that, for instance, have, like, let's just on that issue, that if they have a lot of exempt property or preferential assessment, you know, state parks, like that type of thing, state forests, I think those really change it up considerably. So just the makeup of the counties can be very different. So I don't know if it's enough between this among this sample to really be significant. I'm just trying to think if there's other ways.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and you know, Dana and I we went through this a number of years ago. And essentially, what I got it down to is, you know, essentially, and I know like Franklin County hasn't done a reassessment in a gazillion years or whatever. But what I was trying to say is that if you live, now understanding that, you know, you're going to get maybe more of a home for $250,000, a larger home, in some of our more rural counties as opposed to, you know, a more populated county like Cumberland. But what I was trying to get it down to, and I think we did, you know, is that even if you compare a home valued at $250,000 or $200,000 or $150,000 in Cumberland County, we are substantially, you know, below what other counties, what other property owners are paying in real estate taxes. And that, you know, is kind of like just following what Gary said. You know, really, we don't pay taxes based on population. We pay taxes based on real estate. I mean, that's really our primary, you know, revenue source. So the sales pitch, if you will, as to, okay, so how high are our taxes compared to other counties? And try to compare, you know, apples with apples. That's the best one we can come up with. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're like, I think Dauphin County's like twice as high or as we are with respect to the county real estate tax. And, you know, and I think that, you know, I mean, essentially we're lower property tax wise than, you know, on a similarly valued home in Cumberland County that most of the counties around us, or than all the counties around us.
The per capita, I mean, what's compelling about the per capita is that, yes, that's not how we tax, but it is how we spend. We have to provide services to everybody who lives in this county. So what is your, you know, what's your revenue base? What is the revenue base that you need to generate to support everybody in your county? I think that's, there may be something else in addition to this that would give us a more fulsome view, but I think this is also important from the service provision.
I don't disagree with anything there that's been said. My point remains, we're not going to solve this today, but I think this is a discussion we've had at some point, that you're right, it's based on what we have to pay out for services, but the folks who are paying have different abilities to pay because we tax them on property, which is not liquid. They have to pay with cash, which is liquid. So they're measuring the impact on somebody based on their how much property is sold or the valuation.
You're talking more about fairness.
Yeah. So, and I haven't totally defined it in my mind here, but I think at some point we should have that discussion, just to see if there's other measures. Not that we shouldn't continue to use this measure, but I think if we want to talk about tax impacts and such, then we should talk about the impact, not just to us, but, and I think there's going to be some differences. We have, for instance, we have pretty wide participation in clean and green for our property owners. Now, still, we don't talk about is a lot, but there's still a lot of eligible properties that aren't on that. And there has been discussion here in the past, if you add everybody who's eligible, there can be significant tax impacts there. The difference in participation rate or percentage of your county that's under clean and green, I think would have a material impact on some of these calculations. So as we discuss what we want to do with clean and green in the future, it would be, just one example, would be helpful to know what some of these measures are and what the impacts truly are, both to us as well as to the average homeowner. Not a lot about using averages, but
Well, that's another one of those issues, though, that we have very little control over relative to clean and green. I mean, if you're
Right.
I mean, that depends on what the state legislature created that preferential tax treatment. Okay. And, essentially the guidelines for that program are set by the state. What they've been talking about, that we've been talking about through the Assessment and Taxation Committee at CCAP, is increasing the number of acres that are required to be clean and green. Right now, it's 10 acres. You could have a palatial estate sitting on 10 acres, and it doesn't have anything to do with agriculture. And those folks are getting a nice big tax break. So they've been talking about going up to 25 and grandfathering in, existing property owners, but in the future, in order to qualify, you have to have a minimum of 25 acres. So a lot of this is dictated by the legislature. You talk about tax fairness. I and a number of members of the Assessment and Taxation Committee are going to be meeting with our legislators October 18th, on our CCAP platform, seek alternatives to the property tax, to lower the property tax. I mean, it's not about generating additional revenue, but it is about talking about expanding the base so that it's not just property owners that can whack. And we'll see what happens. I mean, I think, and the other point about trying to do everything we can to keep property taxes as low as possible, we can't lose sight of the fact how important that is to driving our economy and wanting people to locate here, businesses and residents. So that's why it's good if you have other measures that say, hey, you get a $250,000, you have a $250,000 home in Cumberland County, you're paying, one half of what you would pay in Dauphin County.
And in doing that, I think it would be important to make a distinction between residential and commercial.
Yes, you can factor in your number of households and make it a better number in that respect.
I don't want to get too far afield, so we can talk about
Yes,
this
we
issue.
gotta wrap up.
But I did want one last thing, is Jim, you're right, the eligibility standards are set by the state, we have no control over that. What we do have control over is the fact that, at least in the past, we had some officials who were out beating the drum for people to sign up for this without any regard to what the impact on the county's finances would be. And, if they're eligible, they're eligible. That's up to them. I just don't know that we need to be doing that type of thing before we know what the impact is. And if we do it, we should have the understanding that there is a price to be paid for that lost revenue to us, in another way. So this is one of the things with preferential tax treatment is, you lower somebody's, you're not necessarily lowering the cost of the county, you're just shifting it on somebody else.
Exactly.
The tax shifting question is a big part of tax policy that just doesn't get discussed.
The other thing though about clean and green, and I don't think we've promoted it as much, but if you're in clean and green and you have 10 acres of property, I believe that the public has every right to go on their property and hold picket.
For certain types, yeah, and that's not been promoted. The Clean and Green, I don't mind saying it, has been one of the most abused programs out there. It's been a backdoor way for some people to promote what they consider to be an open space preservation solution, but it's very flawed and it has some significant financial impacts to us. So
Initially, it was the predecessor of the farmland preservation program. when you Green came in, and the initial intent was, to preserve agricultural land.
Yeah.
And then,
Focus was that.
like I said, 20-some years ago, then we had the farmland preservation program, so now too, which now has preserved 500,000 acres of prime farmland across the state. But, farm field now. The one thing I always want to ask, all right, and I'm going to ask it again. Okay. Why is it that our budget doesn't equal what we spend every year?
Well,
In other words,
we
why is
could
our
make it do
budget?
that, but we would be spending more than we do. We hold people to a different measure. We don't say, this is your budget, you can spend it.
Right. Because it's budgeted, you don't have to spend it.
No, we do, we budget. It's like this year was 75 million, but we're not spending 75 million.
Correct.
That's good.
And we also have budgets locked down at the line item level in our system, and we have the ability to move money around, or we can't process journal entries or invoices that are 50 cents over and those types of things. So to have that stiff of a control on departments, we have to have a little bit of extra budgeted money, plus we can contingency budget instead of budgeting for everything that could occur.
I think you would great, if we were to do that, am I wrong? You would greatly raise the potential for having to raise your taxes virtually every year.
Correct.
I think it would be conducive to pissing away a lot of money. Because all someone will have to say at the end of the year is, I didn't go over my budget. But did you run the most efficient? Did you spend all the money that were really necessary?
Yeah, well, for, let's see, 19 or 20 years as a township commissioner, I didn't vote for a tax increase.
So here's your decades.
Yeah, it was in years and decades.
20, what I said?
20
You
decades.
said decades. You said centuries.
Anyway, 20 years, some 20 years as a town, and, believe me, Bob Gill used to always give me a hard time because, essentially made the township run on fumes. Okay. So and again, maybe it's just philosophical, but, I say whatever it is you set as your budget figure should be the most that you're going to spend. And it should be kept as low as possible.
Well, let's take attention, sorry. We've got.
It's okay, but I'm not raising taxes to put money in the bank. I will not do that. Now, I understand we need a cushion. This is different than municipal government because we drive everything through the general fund. Okay? But we have $27 million in the bank here.
We're also looking out, we just had a lengthy discussion on the radios. We are putting money back. Legislature for that. We know that's.
This is, I think that this, in summary, my personal summary, is on two or three key points. Number one is, there is no virtue, I think we all agree, there's no virtue in driving our surplus up as high as it can go simply for the sake. There's absolutely no virtue in that whatsoever. The second point is, my absorption of the oral history and mythology of Cumberland County government, there's a tendency to, when you're doing well, to think that things will always be that way. The third thing is, this is not a policy document. All it is here are the implications of what would happen to us budget-wise if certain things are done. Those decisions are by the commission. You could absorb, going back to that, I don't want you to go back, but if you had that $1 million shock, you could absorb that shock if you did something to offset it. What it does, this document does, is to take your existing modus operandi, your norms, and project forward based on what is known, and try to anticipate some notion of probability what might become. The policy decisions are the decisions of the commission. This is simply a matter to say, if you do this, this is what might happen. Or if you want to do this, maybe think about offsetting it. It's not saying, don't do this. It's not saying we can't do that. It is simply showing you the implications of what might
I want to be clear, my question in this regard is not, it shouldn't be regarded as a criticism anyway. This is very good work. It's extremely helpful. So, but we do have some issues that I think are worth discussing, longer term issues in regard to our approach to the budget. And this is very helpful.
No, this is
Anything else? They motion for adjournment?
So,
We're adjourned. Thank you.